All right. So today we are with Christina Quesenberry. Did I say that right?
Quesenberry, yeah.
Quesenberry, live from, are you in Vilsack, Germany?
Vilseg, Germany, yeah.
Vilseg. Okay, cool. Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about pivoting and learning new skills during this small world emergency that we're having. And if you're familiar with her work in the group, you've been seeing these amazing like lay flats that she's been doing. Let me show you just a few real quick before we even get really into this, because they're just so nice. But I'm sure if you've been in the community for any length of time, you've seen these really, really beautiful images come through. And Christina has been sharing these often and has been inspiring people throughout the whole community to do similar creative things. So these are just amazing. So Christina, yes, thank you for joining us today. I'm so excited you're here.
I'm so excited.
Good. Yes, tell us a little bit about your projects in Germany right now, like since the lockdown. Tell us how this kind of all evolved.
Right. So Germany itself, or the state of Bavaria itself, has been in lockdown since the 21st of March. Since the 21st, we haven't been able to go outside except for the necessary travel. Obviously, all of our sessions that we had scheduled are currently on pause, which is really rough for a military community because people are still planning on leaving and rotating out. And obviously that's really hard because if you lived here for 3 years, you still want to get those location sessions in of your town that you've been in for 3 years. That is so hard. I think that's the hardest right now because you really feel for them. And, a lot of my people book quite further out, especially for spring and summer. So yeah, this has been really a hard hit for the community, especially here. Being that people are still planning on moving, and right now we can't do anything. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, it's been so hard for, nearly every photographer
Yeah.
out there right now, because our job is to be really close to people,
Right.
almost always, and now
Yes.
we're not supposed to be.
Yeah,
Um,
especially just newborns. That's one of my favorite things to shoot, and yeah, holding back on those, it's really been breaking my heart a little bit. Yeah,
yeah,
I miss them, and they still send me updates, and it's really nice to still connect, and they're sending me little milestones. But it's been a month, so my newborns are now a month old already, and just thinking about that is a little sad, actually.
oh yeah, there's going to be kind of a lost generation of photos,
Right.
like newborn, wedding, engagement,
Senior,
seniors.
at least here, I don't know how it is stateside, but our military schools have canceled school for the rest of the year now, so they won't be going back. So all of our seniors basically stopped in March already.
Oh man, it's crazy. I mean, same here. Yeah, like I'm homeschooling and running Mastin Labs and doing
Oh
a
yeah,
bunch of things at once, and it's very hard to fit shooting in. Um,
yes.
Definitely, it's crazy. So what's really cool is that despite all of those things, despite the problems in the world, you have been making amazing art. And I wanted to ask, like, is this something new? Like these, I'm going to show some again here. These lay flats that you've been doing, are these like something that you've done before, or is this something that you are learning now because
Right,
this is like an outlet?
right. So I don't, just to clarify, I don't shoot weddings, although I primarily shoot newborns and families and portraits.
Yeah,
So I have done those lay flats in the past, but not to this degree.
yeah.
Um, last year is when I originally started playing around with it. And then with my shootings, I got a little too preoccupied, I guess. And yeah, with so much time on my hand, I pulled out that dusty old wooden table that everyone always asks what it is. And it's just a wooden table that I have that folds up. And I pulled it back out and started just playing around with that table, to be honest. You can kind of see it in the screen behind me, but I actually shoot right behind me against that marble heater slab because it's the only light source I have in this room. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's amazing, because like when I look at a photo like this with, I'm looking at the one with the bread and the brie.
Yeah.
It looks like a really perfectly lit studio shot almost. You know, like an amazing like food photography type shot that you would see, you know, on the cover of a magazine or something.
Right. It should make you
Um,
hungry when you're looking at it.
yes, yes, for like a crusty loaf of freshly
Right, like a
bread.
crust, exactly, a perfectly crusty loaf of bread. Yeah, it is. I do shoot all of those flat lays right behind me against that window. Um, and that's just because in my apartment itself, I don't have a lot of window light, and that's the only source,
Uh-huh.
which is the question that I get asked a lot. Like you said, it does look like I've lit it somehow, but it's all window light, no other light source at all.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you use any kind of reflector or anything, or do you just have this
No.
beautiful spot of light?
Yeah, so I played around it with it originally, and I found that if I just push the table against the light and use all side lighting, that you can really get some cool shadows and cool highlights that really like make make your flat lays have dimension, I guess.
Hmm. Cool. So is it like a big window on one side and then the light is being reflected off of that marble heater back on the other side to fill a little bit?
So the window is actually
Let me show your screen. There we go.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the marble slab is against the wall, and opposite, actually, like the window is against it. So the table is pushed directly against it, so it's lined up with that slab. And the
Okay.
window light is only coming in from one side, and the other side is just shadow. So when I'm placing the items that I'm shooting, I just aware of like the height of the item. So the shortest item is closer, so the shadows aren't being casted in a funny way.
Great tip. That's really cool. Interesting. So you're using the constraints of what you have to make these photos,
Yeah.
and positioning everything carefully. Um, how do you get your ideas for what you're going to shoot?
Right. So sometimes when I'm just in the store and I'm grabbing something, I did the strawberries. The strawberries were something that I just picked up when I was at the store. And
Uh-huh.
I have a little like workflow to how I shoot those flat lays.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, usually it's something that I don't really plan that far ahead. I know that it might sound I should probably plan a little bit more, but like the popcorn was just something that I had in the cabinet.
Oh, that's so
Um,
great.
yeah, and that was just popcorn, and I ran outside and grabbed a couple of flowers off of our tree. Yeah, super simple, and using kind of like every item, so the bag, the kernels, the salt, and the popcorn, but using it so that it's kind of like each thing is highlighted in a way.
Yes. Do you have any food styling experience before this?
No.
Wow.
But I'm really obsessed with that kind of like country style food photography, if you know what I mean. Not that standard. It's not. It's I guess it's not or editorial maybe, but
Hmm.
we call it country style here in Germany.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like that farmhouse feel where you have a lot of interest or dimension, or you're using your hands to work with something. Those are usually incorporated into the shoots a lot. And
Oh yeah.
yeah, it's just a lot of playing around, to be honest.
Like this one. Yeah,
Yes,
where you've got like arms and hands.
right.
Yeah,
Just
that's so
playing
cool.
around. Yeah.
And it's really dramatic. Maybe I'm trying to think of like what the equivalent word would be maybe like rustic
Rustic,
for
maybe?
here, or
Yeah,
or organic. Like
right,
I've seen food photography that's really like minimal and austere, where it's like there's almost nothing there. You know, it's super clean. Like
right.
you'd see like a Michelin chef, you know, little tiny carefully crafted thing. And this is really like there's a lot of depth and drama and color and texture. There's a lot of texture in every
Yeah, the
photo.
texture is such an important piece. And usually when I'm styling the actual flat lay, I'll look at the texture of the thing that you're shooting. So the avocado is a good example of how avocado, when it's mashed, can sometimes not be so appealing to look at. So
Yeah.
mixing a cut avocado with a mashed avocado with also the avocado raw is a good contrast of textures. So you don't have just one, you're like hyper focusing on just that end result, which I
Mm.
think is kind of the standard food thing. You kind of only focus on getting that one shot versus building to get that shot.
Uh-huh. Okay, so and then in this series with the avocado, this is this like an evolution, like as you're making it, you're taking more photos? So like
Yeah, yeah. So when anytime usually when I style something that has food in it, I'll take pictures of the item before I start working with the item. Even if I
mhm.
don't end up using those images, it's kind of once you start, you can't really go back. If you've cut the avocado, you can't
You
really
can't go back.
uncut. Yeah, you can't go back.
Yeah.
So I typically just start with just shooting the item and then cutting the item open, getting it kind of organically before I start seasoning it or working with it on actually like plating it. Typically, I don't
Mhm.
like to overuse utensils or plates in the images. Keep
Hmm.
it kind of like rustic, like you said. I guess rustic
Mhm.
is a good word. It's just on the table.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a farmhouse. Like or you know, you're not
Farmhouse.
yeah, yeah.
That's what we're
Yeah.
calling it in Germany. Country farmhouse, I think.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Yeah, back a long time ago, I did do a few food like commercial shoots. It was not my thing. Um, I mean, I loved it, but it was very difficult. Like the hardest part for me was the arrangement of all the elements in the photo to make it both appetizing and interesting.
Right.
Um, in fact, one time I did a shoot for Sahale Nuts, like it's like a snack company, and
Okay.
I remember I was working with an assistant who would take tweezers and like pick out the perfect like hero nut and like put it, you know, in the spot. But I
Hmm.
was like that. It didn't really click for me. But when I look at your photos, like this top middle one of the avocado with the eggs, and then there's like two little pieces of green onion, I guess,
Right.
on top of it. Like, did you know, did you get it all set up and then you're like, oh, you know, this could use a little more interest right here, and you like put it there? Or did you
Right.
just like throw it on? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, I am
It's
quite
hard.
rustic. Yeah, I don't go in with tweezers. I am quite rustic. I mean, you can see on the table it has like a lot of seasoning. So when I'm seasoning, it's just kind of going everywhere, which kind of adds to the texture of the image.
Hmm.
I don't usually prepare the food and then plate it on the table. I do everything on the table.
That's
So
awesome.
you can tell that you seasoned the actual the avocado. But with the
Hmm.
chives, I went outside in the garden and I just got some of our chives and I cut it up over, and it was really rustic. I think I have a video on my Instagram of me doing it. I'm just have like a handful of chives and I'm just cutting it, letting it
Hmm.
fall wherever it falls, and then I happen to have the end pieces like that. And after I took a shot with just the eggs on top, I thought it would be kind of interesting to place them there. And yeah, because I think green and orange, you correct me if I'm wrong, I think green and orange are complementary colors. And
Yeah.
so it doesn't overpower the image with a lot of colors. It's just those cool tones and then warm tones, and that's it.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful. Okay. do you mind if I ask you some technical questions? Because I'm sure there are people watching that would love
Yeah,
to know.
sure. Yeah.
Although I want to just put this out there that it's not the equipment that makes a photo great. It's the
No.
brain and the vision of the person who's taking the photo and all of their life experiences and their opinions and how they see the world. But that being said, can you tell me like what camera you used, what lenses? You probably used more than one lens,
Right.
things like that, like tripod
Okay,
or
so
not.
um, that's actually interesting because when I started doing this, I got into a couple food groups and I noticed that a lot of people use tripods. I personally don't use a tripod because I like to rotate around the table to see where the light is falling and if I like it better on one side versus the other. So I
Hmm.
personally don't use a tripod, although I have nothing negative to say if somebody does use a tripod. But yeah,
Sure.
I don't use a tripod. I like to be able to move around the table. And then I shoot with a Canon 5D Mark IV,
Uh-huh.
and most 85% of my shots are with a 35 millimeter lens. And
Interesting.
right. And I use macro filters on the 35.
I would never in my wildest dreams have guessed that in that
Right.
combo ever.
Right. I do have a 50, a 51.2 that I use for some of the shots, but I always end up leaning towards using the 35 and then just putting the macro filters on and off. And I switch a lot during the shoot because usually when you're when you're moving the stuff around the table, you want to get a shot from a higher angle and then a 45-degree shot and then a macro shot
Okay.
and then move it
Huh.
back around.
Interesting. So you have like a process of like you're going like wide, closer, closer.
Right. And then I reposition the food usually.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, and then also like there's a process. Like the avocado started, you just open it up and then throughout the day now it's like cut up, now it's on the bread.
Right.
And you're going through those steps of like far away or over,
Right.
closer, macro.
Exactly.
Interesting. So like for example, this grid right here, I love this one. I don't keep coming back to it. What, is this all 35 with and without the macro, or did
Yes.
you switch it up?
Yeah. I think I
That is
used
awesome.
I think I used a 50 on 3 shots, but I couldn't say if I looked at all 50 shots from that set, I couldn't say which was the 50 at that point, but it was
Hmm.
90% all 35. Yeah.
Okay. So what about this one?
That was also all 35 with a macro filter.
Oh my God. I would be scared to be a lens manufacturer making macro lenses because like
It's
this is
crazy. Yeah.
it's amazing. Yes, I love it. I love it. And it's it's so it's so much more practical and less
Mhm.
expensive to just use filters like macro filters so that these are filters you screw on the end. They say like +1, +2.
Plus
Which ones
4.
do you use? Do
Mhm.
you use +4? Okay.
I use +2 and +4. I have a +10, but I find that it's too finicky. You have to be very still to actually nail focus because
Yes.
it's so yeah, it's just a really finicky. +10 is yeah.
I've never used a +10. That blows my
No,
mind. Like
it's difficult.
yes. Like back in the day when dinosaurs roamed the land, I had a Contax 645 and I didn't want to carry a bunch of lenses, so I bought a +1 and a +2 filter for the 80,
Mhm.
and that got me through like 10 years of shooting with that camera. And so I don't often run across people who use filters over like getting a macro lens, but
Right.
they work really well. Like there's nothing.
Yeah, they're
I don't
sharp.
know.
If you can be
Yeah,
still and patient, they're super sharp. I don't see any issue with it at all.
that's fantastic. So I'm always gonna think back to weddings because that was like my whole world. But like uh, one thing that's nice about those filters is like instead of carrying a macro lens with you, which is like another
Mhm.
item that you have to like find in your bag and it's heavy, you can just
Right.
have like a little pocket full of macro
Macros.
filters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The pack I bought was really cheap, ridiculously cheap, $25 probably. And they come with a little handy bag. So they're all in that little bag, and it's a little travel bag. It's something that I bring to my newborn shoots to shoot their little toes and fingers.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that. It's very zen. Cool. Awesome. So also I was just wondering what preset or what do you edit with later? Is there one that seems to work with food for you in particular?
Yeah, all of my foods, they're all shot with gold. They're all done with gold. I find that
Uh-huh.
gold doesn't overpower the image as much as maybe another preset would, like Ektar sometimes tends
Yeah.
to be a little too punchy for food, in my opinion. And gold has this really great quality to, it cools the shadows in a really pleasant way, I feel.
Yes.
So you can really play with food and that aspect because it's not too dominant in a way that some of the other ones would be.
Yes. Yeah, you totally, yeah, like that is the nature of that film is the kind of the cool greenish shadows, and then there
Hmm.
can be warmth on top of it.
Right.
Yeah, that was my favorite like analog film of all time was Kodak Gold. Like
Yeah, and it's such
I
a cheap film to buy still. So
it's so cheap. It's like
it's so
$3 a
cheap.
roll.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you shoot with film too?
Yes, I do. Yeah, yeah.
Good. That's awesome. That's great. Do you shoot any of these food shots with film as well? Like,
No,
or is
but
it?
that would be a really great challenge to see and to compare. Um,
Uh-huh.
I have a 35, so it would be interesting to see how it would handle. That would be a really good challenge. I'm going to mark that down. That would be a nice challenge to do. I do have
Yeah,
some
yeah,
portrait film. Maybe portrait would be interesting to shoot some food
yeah,
with as well.
yeah. I think yeah, portrait could be good. I always felt that
Hmm.
film was kind of. I mean, I like that was like I shot a lot of portrait film for weddings and engagements because of the skin tones.
Hmm.
I wonder how that would do on food. It's kind of a yellowish film.
Right. That's why
Um,
gold, I keep coming back to gold for these because it just does, like, if you have warm light, then you're going to have a really cool balance of that cold shadow versus like warm light coming in.
yeah,
Um, but then again, if you have something in your image, like the tulips are so punchy themselves, they don't need warm light. So you can
yeah,
plan to shoot before it's too warm, before your highlights are like way too warm, because the tulips themselves are too warm, or not too warm, but warm in themselves. They wouldn't need that warm light to warm them up even more.
yeah. Totally. Very cool.
I think I did that with maybe it was the walnuts. I'm trying to think of.
Oh yeah. Let me see if I can. I have a whole folder of stuff here. I just grabbed a few. Yeah, the walnuts. Do do do.
Yeah, and you said you shot with nuts. That's what made me think of that, actually, that I did those
Yes.
walnuts as well.
Let me pull those up. One second. Christina has so much great work. It was really hard to decide which ones to show, but let me get a few close-ups too, because I think they're excellent. Yeah, let me grab these. So I was looking here and it said that you've been including your Instagram followers. You've
Yeah,
been like kind of activating them.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
So for the food specifically, this was like whenever I get a little bit, not a creative funk, but if I get a little bit to the point where I don't have an idea myself, I did this on my Instagram story where I just wrote in my story and said, if you were to go into the supermarket and you could only buy one produce, what would you pick up? I didn't
Ah,
poll them specifically, but I just made it a little sticker question, and everyone wrote in and just, gave their little suggestions: tomatoes, carrots, avocados. And then the majority of what came in is what I ended up walking in and grabbing. I
oh,
asked in the
cool.
beginning of the day, and then at the end of the day, I went and just picked up the avocado. So avocado was mentioned the most
Oh, interesting. And then you went and made art from that.
with the
Oh, cool.
avocado. Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome.
So that's
Oh,
something that's so easy to do, and I think if you lack the idea, or you maybe aren't so motivated and you think, this might not look so great. Yeah, I didn't know if I could make avocados work, to be quite honest, because like I said, I thought if I mash them, they're gonna look a little funky. But yeah, I think it worked out.
Totally. Like these, look what I found. I found the nuts.
Yeah, the
Uh,
nuts.
yeah, like you took something that we pass by in the grocery store a million times, like
Hmm.
usually in bins, and made something really cool out of it, um, by beautiful light and really wonderful, well, great composition and light, but also like the color palettes are
Hmm.
really, really, really thoughtful. Um, I love that. Was this also part of the challenge, or was this before you did that?
This was before I did the Instagram story poll, but I had those walnuts left over from Christmas in Germany. A lot of, I don't know why, but it's like we always have a bowl of walnuts out for Christmas. So I had those still out. And yeah, I had the idea to challenge how many ways I could shoot the walnut. So
Uh-huh.
from just the walnut to, like you said, having it half open, and I think I did some where the walnut was out, or showing different parts of the walnut, I guess. It's
Hmm.
simple, but using it in multiple ways.
Yeah, it's really nice. Also grabbed a few more things here. Looks like you just found some flowers outside, some things, and then added ribbon or cloth
Hmm.
that you had in your house.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's so great. That's awesome. Okay, so let me see. Do you have any, like, I was wondering, do you have any advice for someone wanting to try this themselves? Like, what's a good way to start? Because I think when people see these,
Hmm.
they go, "Oh, that's really beautiful. That is amazing, but there's no way that I can do that because of this, that, or the other thing." Um, but you've been able to make beautiful art in your home despite everything. Is there any advice you could give the community, like, to do your first one?
Right. So 100% it's all lighting. And I mean, this is again back to how you talk about lighting in general when it comes to any shoot. But for food specifically, you can really do all hard highlights and all hard shadows, in my opinion, because you don't have the same I guess aspect of when you're shooting people. You have emotion involved, and you can have motion itself involved, whereas when you're shooting something that's still, you need to find a way to make it interesting. And in
Yeah.
food, I feel like it's all like highlights and then shadows to pull you into the image. So if
Hmm.
you can find even just a window in your house where you can set it up and utilize that light, you're going to get a stellar image, because even these images straight out of camera look totally acceptable. But obviously, um, playing with the colors again. I think in most of my images, I always have one warm item and then one cool item to sort of balance themselves out, which
Yes,
it's
me
only
too.
intentional in the sense of like, what are you going to put your food under, or what are you going to, if you have fabric, what are you going to use?
Yeah, it's like there's like this again. I found another image with the walnuts. It's like there's nothing here that is impossible to find somewhere. Like,
Right.
a wooden bowl of flowers. Your table is pretty amazing.
Right.
I have to say, your table is like a superstar. I mean, look at this, the
Yeah, the
the
table
patina on it.
the table is from the 70s. It's super distressed. It has, yeah, patina. It's antique looking, I guess, but I feel like you could
Yes.
go out and do that table yourself if you had time on your hands. You could make this really cool table by just distressing it. But yeah, the table has a lot of character and texture.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. But what's cool too about that is that it ties everything together. Like,
Hmm.
you could put all these on a website. They all look like different shoots, but the table is kind of a common theme that brings kind of unity to everything. Like, it's part of your style, because it's like in every shot. But I don't know,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's carrots. We're looking at carrots. Like
Yeah, it's
anyone
just
can
the
go get
carrots.
carrots, but you've made it beautiful with the texture, the lighting, the warm and cool colors. Gold, I could see working. Yeah, works really
Hmm.
well on this because it keeps the shadows cool. That looks
Yeah.
so good. And then highlight. You're doing all hard or highlight hard?
Yeah, I'm doing all hard.
Okay, so all hard is using the all hard tone profile tool thing, which makes the shadows darker and richer and the highlights more poppy.
Pop.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you're
Even if
using those.
even if I were to accidentally blow out the image, or all hard wouldn't work, you could always just use a gradient filter to soften that highlight if you've missed the mark on the shot.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I use those too sometimes just to kind of uh, even out the tones. Sometimes I even layer them. I don't know if you do that too. Like
Yeah.
taking a few neutral density gradient filters, so it's that, I don't know, it's like dark to light, like over a gradient, and I'll like stack a few of them in the corner,
I'll do that
if
with,
I,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
With
yeah,
I do that with warmth. So I'll do that with corner warmth. I'll warm up the images on the sides. So if the
uh-huh.
vignette is too cool, I don't know, maybe it's just my eye, but I'll do that exact same thing that you said with warming it up.
That's cool. That's awesome. All right. I don't have too many more questions. Oh yes, I wanted to ask. Once the world goes back to normal, do you have any plans on doing food photography as a paid thing, or is it just going to be for fun?
Right now, I would love to. I wonder how this would work where I am specifically, because we have a lot of older, more traditional styles available. So this could be something that comes into the market that's revamps it in a way. Because yeah, where we are specifically, it's very traditional food photography. Like I said, those one image shots, they clearly are very planned out.
Yeah.
Um, but it would be fun to go into a restaurant and see, the baker with the flour. There's a lot of stuff
Oh
that you could,
yeah.
yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you could do here, or with the coffee. Yeah, I would love to continue doing this, because yeah, it's been fun. Obviously I wouldn't do it every single day. I've been doing it a lot. Like you
Yeah.
said, I send a lot of images because I have a lot of shots.
Yes. No, it's so cool. All right. Well, thank you so much. Uh, where can we find you on Instagram and elsewhere for people
So
watching?
my Instagram handle is Tina Q Berry. And yeah,
Okay.
I am on Facebook. It's Quesenberry Photography.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's really been
Thank
a
you.
pleasure. Yeah, and we're excited for people to see more of your work. It's really inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah. All right. Well, have a great day. Keep shooting good stuff and keep sharing it in the community. And yeah, I hope you inspire more people to do the same, because it's great. So thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Mhm.